Hey,
Yes.
can you buy your own taonga?
Good question. Let's sit down. This is a really interesting question and really difficult to answer because you're going to get different answers from different people that you ask. I'm going to give my thoughts on why you can buy your own taonga and talk about why I think a lot of the misconceptions that you can't arise, or why some different people have differing views on the matter. I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm just saying they're different. Massive parts of our culture have been lost by colonisation. Forcibly by the Crown, imposing acts that stopped us talking Māori, burning down our pa, burning down our carvings, essentially trying to wipe out our culture. I want to say that to say this. I understand why there is such fierce loyalty around sticking to tikanga. What culture we do have left, we want to protect vigorously. I understand that, and I'm the same. I want to protect our Māori customs, but there's got to be some point where we look at what customs we keep, what tikanga is relevant and what tikanga isn't relevant. I believe absolutely you can buy your own taonga, and there's a few reasons why. Number one, if we think about where this idea of gifting taonga come from, we actually have to go back and look at history and what taonga was to our tupuna. Taonga made out of pounamu, heitiki, toki, they were incredibly valuable and incredibly hard to find. You can only find them in one place in the country, meaning our tupuna had to trade for them. And when they traded for them, they actually had to trade a lot of things to get one. There's instances where some of the best tāmokoists in the country would receive heitiki, sometimes even more than that, in return for mokoing Araki's face. The value of a taonga was huge, and only people of mana, status, or extreme skill had them. When those people passed away, the taonga, whether it be a tokipo tangata, whether it be a heitiki, it would stay with that person for about a year after death. When they died, those people were either placed at the entrance to a pa, up on a high platform in the bushes, and they would let nature do its course and decompose the body. They would then remove any flesh, any cartilage off of those bones, they would bound it up, cover it in ochre. At that point, the taonga that was with that body, if it was a tokipo tangata, the taonga, the pounamu would be removed, the kakau or the rako would stay and be buried with that person, and then that taonga would be then passed on to the next generation. So that's the early stages that we start to see this idea of gifting taonga away, or that preservation of that tikanga that carried on over the years. Where the lines blur a little bit is around tikanga to Māori today, areas of tikanga they choose to preserve. Our tikanga practices were lost, so Māori today are incredibly defensive of tikanga practices. There are staunch Māori who are going to believe that nope, tikanga cannot under any circumstances be changed, and then there are going to be Māori who believe actually there are circumstances where tikanga can be changed. So two is, if we think about what currency was to our tupuna, we didn't have money, we traded everything. Even then we look at koha. Koha essentially was done through utu, and utu doesn't just mean revenge, it also means reciprocity. So if I'm gifting you something, there's at some point an expectation that I'd get a gift back. So we had this notion of trading and this idea of trading within our country. So sometimes we would trade taonga for food, muskets, sometimes we would trade it for services, and the person who received that was doing that essentially to gain that for themselves. Like our tupuna weren't buying taonga or trading taonga for themselves. If we think about what a toki is, a toki was a tool. So our tupuna weren't going to wait their whole life to be gifted a tool. They would essentially go out and trade for a tool and make their own tool. Final reason I definitely believe you can buy it for yourself is if we look at what ownership is. Ownership is temporary until we die anyway. So if you're buying taonga for yourself, you're not really buying it for yourself. You're buying it for the next person, the next generation. You're buying it for the family heirloom. So the taongas that I have made, or taonga that I have commissioned, like this beautiful ring here, is going to go to my children. So I'm the temporary owner of this taonga, knowing that it's going to be passed on. So I'm not really buying it for myself. I might be wearing it temporarily, but when my children get older, they will then get this taonga. So this idea that you can't buy it for yourself, in my opinion, is quite a short-sighted, quite a narrow-sighted view to have, because our tupuna were doing it. Our tupuna were trading commodities for taonga for themselves. There are circumstances in our lives that either connect us to our tupuna or disconnect us from our tupuna. This idea you have to be gifted it, in my opinion, is a barrier from people connecting themselves to their tupuna. And if you are a Māori and you want to own a connection to your tupuna, buy yourself a taonga.